All right, good evening, everyone. Happy to have you all back with us for our monthly briefing. You may notice we are on a different day and a different time than we have been over the past year. We thought we'd try something new. Some of the feedback we've received from the community is that they wanted a time that was more accessible. So we're trying 5:30 today. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully we'll get to more people. So I appreciate the media accommodating our changes. As usual, I want to acknowledge Deputy Mayor Owens, who's here with me as part of the briefing, and you'll be hearing more from her later. And before we get started, I just wanted to note that Ramadan is coming to an end tonight. And we, of course, have the festival of Eid al-Fitr tomorrow. So I want to recognize and appreciate our Islamic friends in the community who have been praying and fasting over the past month. I had the opportunity to spend an evening at the Mosque of Jesus, Son of Mary on the north side last week, and it was a really special evening. I fasted during the day in solidarity with our Muslim brothers and sisters, and had an opportunity to break the fast after getting to see some really special young people at the mosque who performed a number of recitations and songs and other performances. It was very enjoyable, very educational, and overall just a really meaningful night for me, and I think for everyone there. So I want to thank everyone at the mosque for welcoming me with open arms. So I do wish everyone a blessed conclusion to Ramadan. And I also do want to acknowledge and say that I am praying for the end of violence that we're seeing in Israel and Gaza right now. So my prayers are with all those that are in the midst of that violence, and again, very hopeful for a quick end to it. For the agenda today, we're going to cover, as we always do, the latest COVID-19 data. We will get an update on our vaccinations here in the city. We'll talk about our City Hall reopening plans, give an update on the city budget, as well as our American Rescue Plan. And we'll do a quick overview of the COMPSTAT crime data. You'll hear from the Deputy Mayor with an update on our home unit and on our ongoing police reform efforts. We will highlight the Syracuse Fire Department Academy graduation that took place last week, give an update on the downtown infrastructure work that is very much underway right now, and give some updates on parks programming. So full agenda, lots going on, and look forward to sharing more about it. So let's look at the COVID data. So right now, it's looking better. So we've been monitoring the numbers daily, and I was concerned because we were seeing some rises in cases in the city as recently as last week and over the past month, but we are seeing those numbers go back down. So you can see just a week ago, we were at 329 cases citywide. We're down to 197 as of yesterday. So that's the direction we want to see things go, and hopeful with continued vaccinations, that trend will continue. Looking at the state's early warning monitoring dashboard, again, a reflection of improving numbers. Our infection rate for the region is 1.1%, and if you dig down a little bit more to Onondaga County, we're below 1% at 0.9%. So again, that's the direction we want to be headed in. I want to continue to see that go down, and the end of the pandemic, I think, is in sight right now, but we're not out of it yet. So just a reminder to continue to keep our guard up, do all the things that have gotten us this far. But again, pleased to see the progress. On the topic of vaccines, good news is we are continuing to see more and more people get vaccinated. I was at Destiny USA last Friday for a new innovative approach, which was setting up a vaccination clinic in partnership with New York State, where people could sign up, but they could also just walk in. And I think the latest numbers are we had around 300 vaccinations over the course of 2 days, Friday and Saturday, at Destiny. And those are 300 people that, for whatever reason, hadn't gotten it up to that point. And I think it reinforces our belief that if you go to where people are still willing to get the shot. We we certainly have vaccine hesitant groups, but there are other portions of our population that simply just haven't gotten sufficient access to the vaccine yet. And if we continue to go where people are, I think we'll see that continue to go up. I was at Second Olivet Church over on West Street yesterday, much smaller clinic, but again, had a sign out encouraging walk-ins, and they got some. So we're going to continue that. I saw the county vaccination rate for adults, or the percentage of vaccinated adults in Onondaga County. I think that have at least gotten one shot is around 67%, which is good. The city's rate is significantly lower than that. We'll have an update tomorrow from the county on the vaccination rate in the city. Last week it was at 29.4%. I think we're going to see, well, we're definitely going to see an increase in that, but don't have an up-to-date number yet. But again, we'll be looking for that to come from the county tomorrow. So we understand people we still have concerns about the vaccine. I've encouraged everyone, you need to talk to your healthcare providers, talk to the experts, but you'll hear when you do that what we've all heard, which is that it's safe. The proof is in the data. And just a reminder that it's not just about you, it's about taking care of yourself, your family, and your community. So I encourage everyone to please get vaccinated. So I want to talk about the reopening of City Hall. So of course, we have been operating nonstop throughout the pandemic. And as you all have seen, I've been in City Hall throughout the pandemic, but City Hall has been closed to the public, and really for two reasons. One, of course, is the pandemic and the concern about overall health and safety. But we also, as I think I've mentioned previously, we had a flood shortly after the beginning of the pandemic that led to some significant repairs and renovations to City Hall. Also gave us the opportunity to make some improvements. So we are officially reopening City Hall to the public on Monday, May 17th. And you're going to see some of those improvements. One, you're going to see more parking options adjacent to the building. So Market Street was largely previously occupied by city staff vehicles. We've opened up the majority of Market Street now for public parking. That is significant also because Market Street is going to be the new main entrance for City Hall. As much as I love walking up the front steps, it is not the most accessible or secure way to get into City Hall. So we have a new ramp on Market Street, which you can see in the picture in front of you. That'll be one singular point of entry that will allow us to, again, increase and enhance security. Once you get through that checkpoint, you will see that we have a new city payment center, new and improved city payment center, where you can take care of most of your city payments, and the majority of them will be available for credit card payments as well as other forms. We'll keep our drop box open on Market Street. That has been an innovation that has proved to be helpful, and we think will continue to be. But we will the new city payment center, I think, will be a welcomed improvement. So again, the new main entrance starting on Monday will be on Market Street. That's right across from the state office building, and we will have a security checkpoint there. But really looking forward to having the public back in the building. It just hasn't felt the same without you all. So look forward to welcoming you back. So I want to touch on the budget. So on Monday, the Common Council approved our fiscal year 2022 budget. I want to thank the council for their diligence and for their cooperation throughout the process. The budget hearings I thought were very productive and generally smooth. I want to thank my department heads and the entire team at City Hall, especially the budget office, for getting us to this point. There were some amendments made to the budget. I am going to do one final review of those amendments, largely related to housing and public art, both priorities for this administration. And I do expect to sign the budget ordinance and the approved amendments by the end of this week. Related to those amendments, the council did draw down additionally on our American Rescue Plan federal funding. Again, those amendments, I think, are consistent with the plans that we've been working to put in place, and we've had conversations with the council about that. But that planning for the American Rescue Plan funding continues. We're making very good progress. Again, our goal is to really, in addition to making up for significant losses in revenue, we want to shore up our city operations, and we want to make transformational investments that are going to move, that will move the needle for this community. So we did receive some formal guidance from the federal government this week. It's voluminous, so we're working our way through that. One small bit of unfortunate news: we've been operating under the understanding that we were receiving 126 million. Turns out it's 123 million. Our understanding is that's related to the most recent census numbers, again reinforcing the importance of a full and accurate count. But $123 million is still a lot of money, and again, we are working very hard to put that plan together. Look forward to sharing it in the coming weeks, and also engaging with the community to make sure that that we are making decisions that are informed by our constituents, those that we serve. So more to come. Next up, let's touch on the CompStat report. As a reminder, the CompStat weekly crime report is published on the SyracusePolice.org website. So this you can access this information anytime. I'll highlight a few numbers going right to the bottom. Overall Part 1 crime for this year, this is at this point in 2021 compared to the same time in 2020. Overall Part 1 crime is down 14%. That's the good news. Consistent with what we're seeing in cities across the country, and continuing a trend that we saw last year, violent crime is up, and that's a very serious, significant concern that we have. You can see what's driving those numbers. Our homicides are up year over year, although we always try to give ourselves some perspective looking at the 5-year numbers, and as you'll see, we're right around the average in homicides for compared to the last 5 years. But the number that really jumps out when you look at the 5-year comparison is aggravated assault. So again, we are working very hard to address this trend that we're seeing across the country. SPD is doing everything in their power, and Chief Buckner under his to disrupt this trend. So that's where we are with the crime numbers as of Tuesday of this week. So at this point, I want to turn it over to Deputy Mayor Owens. As I mentioned, Deputy Mayor has been our fearless leader on a number of important initiatives, most recently our home unit, which again, the acronym is Housing or High Occupancy Monitoring Enforcement. And Deputy Mayor will provide an update on that, as well as another area that she has spent a lot of time investing in, which is police reform and police community relations. Deputy Mayor, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. So we are proud of the work that all of our departments do, and they work collaboratively every single day. But in one particular area, when it comes to large apartment buildings, there was a need to formalize the relationships between departments. So as the mayor mentioned, our high occupancy monitoring and enforcement, or home unit, was pulled together, and it is underway and on the ground running. That unit is comprised of our police, fire, codes, neighborhood and business development, and law departments all working together to proactively monitor large living centers, the conditions in those centers. And we're starting with those properties that have, through our data, we have identified that have high numbers of open code violations and high numbers of police calls. Again, the work of these departments has been going on informally all across the city in various ways. But what we understand is that there's a particular need for them to unite in one unit when it comes to these very large buildings. And we know there are multiple of those all across the city. I just want to give just so much credit to the Codes Department, Fire, NBD, Police, Law, for the work that they're doing for the residents in our community to ensure that everyone has safe living conditions, and particularly under the home unit for these very large buildings. We will continue to do the work, and they have been on the ground running, already visiting 3 units within the last 3 buildings within the last couple weeks. Also important in the area of police reform, the right to know law in our city. It has now been approved by the Common Council, and I'm so proud to announce that our police department has met the call, and they are fully implementing the right to know legislation. All SPD officers are now carrying business cards like the one that you see here on the screen. And in addition to the business cards, training for all the officers on the components of the law and their responsibility is complete. We are collecting data on all police stops that we will tabulate and are required to report out to the public on. And so that data is being collected. And we will be publishing our first report on that data in the third quarter of this year, around July. And so we are so thankful to the Syracuse Police Department through all of the initiatives, whether it's been just a national cry for police reform, as well as the mayor's executive order and the New York State Executive Order 203. Our police department has been amazingly flexible and just stepping up to the plate on every single thing that we've put in front of them to be able to meet the needs of our community. Lastly, I want to talk about civil service law reform. One of the areas that we really are looking at is a diversification of our public service departments, public safety departments, but especially our police department. So the city is seeking to change the civil service law for law enforcement hiring promotion. It is an area that we committed to in our police reform plan to pursue.
Uh-oh, looks like the deputy mayor's
Said
frozen
that the
here.
city can no longer maintain a separate diversity list. And that list gave us an opportunity to look at the scores of diverse candidates in order to identify individuals who we can also look as potential candidates for the police force. The federal judge did not uphold that list. That puts us in a little bit of a quandary here. So we want the ability to consider characteristics ideal for public safety that go beyond a single standardized test. It is no secret that data tells us that standardized tests are not inclusive entirely of individuals who have other qualities that we would want to see in our public safety, whether it is police, fire, or any other department in city government. And a single standardized test and a score should not be the only determination of whether an individual who wants to serve the public can. And so we've submitted formal requests earlier this month to our state delegation to work with us on proposing legislative change for the civil service law. Now, we understand the purpose for civil service law is to avoid the cronyism that could unfortunately come with in politics and appointing people to positions, and that in and of itself is not an open and transparent process. So we understand that. But I think the other piece of the civil service law is that because it is solely based and there are stringent rules that you have to follow, that even when you're considering a candidate, you can interview the top 3 candidates, and it's all purely based on a score. We believe there are so many people in our community who can offer great service to our city and our constituency beyond whether or not they can score in the highest level on a test. Thank you, Mayor Walsh.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Owens. Really important progress. I think it's important to note that just because the topic of police reform isn't in the headlines every day, it doesn't mean we aren't addressing it with any less that we're addressing it with any less urgency. It continues to be a top priority, and we're making good progress, and we'll continue to report it out. On a related note, I just want to circle back on the fire department. I mentioned they had an academy class graduate last week. This class was is the most diverse in the history of the Syracuse Fire Department. Over 40% of the firefighters are people of color. That is significant. We're very proud of that because ensuring that our city team is reflective of the diversity of the community that we serve is a priority in all of our departments. But the fire department, under the leadership of Chief Mike Mons, really has set the gold standard. Just to give you an idea of how much progress is being made in the fire department. In the first 142 years of the Syracuse Fire Department, 13 people of color or women were promoted over the course of those 142 years, representing 20 ranks of command. Just since January 2018, basically over the last 3 years, 9 Black and female members have been promoted across 14 ranks. 3 in the first 142, 9 in the last 3, including most recently Lieutenant Tamika Barnett, who we're very proud of. So again, Chief Mons is really setting the standard. I really appreciate his leadership and look forward to continued progress, not just in the fire department. We are making progress in the police department and as well as our other departments. So shout out to SFD, and again, congrats to our new Syracuse firefighters. Shifting topics over to construction. So it is officially construction season here in the city of Syracuse. It's a mixed blessing. It means the weather's good, but things tend to get a little challenging when you're trying to get around the city. But we are really excited and really proud of all the work that we have underway. So I've talked a lot about how much we've increased the number of overall miles paved on our city roads. So that's continuing this year. So we're beginning with 15 miles of roads planned to be paved, and that's the starting amount. It's the highest starting amount ever, and we hope that number will actually grow by the end of the season. But a few highlights. We started last week on the final milling and paving of South Salina Street. So we started down around Cortland Ave and are working our way north. So that is going to continue through downtown in the coming weeks. Same thing on South State Street. So South State and South Salina are part of a federal mill and pave project. So that work is going to be continuing as well. We've also been doing a lot of water infrastructure work, and in particular around City Hall and down towards the Cathedral Square neighborhood. You can see we have roads blocked off right now for that work. We're going to be doing work right here next to City Hall, I think as soon as later this week or first thing next week. So there's a lot going on. It does cause some short-term challenges, but long-term, it's long overdue, and we're excited to make these investments. We also want to try to make sure that we are communicating as effectively as possible, understanding that it does present some challenges. So we have a new webpage up on our still old, antiquated website, which is very soon going to be a brand new, shiny website. But if you go to syrgov.net/infrastructure, you can see a list of the major projects underway and planned for this season. So more to come on that. In addition to being construction season, it also happens to be tick season, although these days you run the risk of coming across ticks really anytime during the year, but especially as we're all getting outside, there's more foliage outside. And yesterday we updated the Common Council on our tick and deer management program, which included an update on our deer management activities over this past winter. So this past winter, because of the pandemic, we were condensed in our time frame. We only had about 2 months for the program this year, whereas last year we had about 4 months. So understandably, the number of deer removed this year was less. We removed 65 deer through the program this year over the course of those 2 months. But when you add that to the 159 deer that were removed last year, we've removed 224 deer over the past 2 years. Trust me, I take no satisfaction in reporting those numbers other than that we're doing it to reduce the public health risk that comes from not just the deer, but of course the ticks and tick-borne illnesses that we are increasingly struggling with here in the community. In addition to giving that report, I do want to highlight that coming up on Thursday, May 20th, we have a tick bite protection protection virtual workshop that we're doing in partnership with Onondaga County. So that will go from 6 to 7 p.m. on WebEx. You can find information on the parks, on our parks Facebook page, as well as syrgov.net, our website. Again, it's really important that we protect ourselves, and this workshop will give some great guidance on that. So I mentioned we're doing that in partnership with Onondaga County. Really, all of our deer management activities are in partnership with Onondaga County, and specifically the county executive and the county legislature have been very supportive in providing us with financial assistance for our programming. So I want to acknowledge their partnership and thank them for it. So hope to see some of you at the workshop next week. Related to being outdoors, we continue to make significant improvements around the Creekwalk. So last year we cut the ribbon on the latest extension of the Creekwalk that goes down through Kirk Park, which you see here in the picture in front of you. But we're not stopping there. We are continuing to make improvements around the Creekwalk, around the embankments. We have a virtual public session actually tonight for our next phase of improvements to the Creekwalk, specifically our habitat and greenway enhancement project that we're doing in partnership with the Onondaga Earth Corps. So I encourage people to check that out. We're looking for feedback on design concepts and specifically around the slopes inside the fence and the flat areas outside the fence that you're looking at here, again, in Kirk Park, near the Travelers Rest area. But as you can see, just from the removal of invasive species and overgrowth, we continue to transform this area, and it is absolutely beautiful. So we're going to continue that work and encourage the public to weigh in. Lots of exciting news with parks. I'm happy to report today that in-person activities for our seniors resume on Monday, May 17th. So those activities take place at the Cecil Center on Seneca Turnpike and at the Magnarelli Center on Grant Boulevard. Our seniors have been through a lot over the past year and many have suffered from being isolated, and the programming that we do at our centers is really critical in giving our seniors a sense of community, as well as getting access to important services, including meals. So those activities, again, will resume on Monday, May 17th. It's going to be a good old-fashioned family reunion, and I'm really happy for our seniors. So I encourage people that are interested to make reservations using our Syracuse.recdesk.com website to do that. Before closing, I also want to acknowledge that May is Asian American and Pacific Islanders Heritage Month. Syracuse has a very proud and strong AAPI community. It's an especially important time to celebrate and support this community in light of some of the Asian hate incidents that we've seen around the country. And so I want to acknowledge the significance of this month. And encourage everyone here in Syracuse to join me in honoring all of our Asian American and Pacific Islander neighbors for the remainder of this month. So we threw a lot at you. It is 6 o'clock. We have time to answer some questions. One of the other new additions to our briefing, in addition to the media questions, which I will be happy to take now, and the media members are welcome to take put your video back on. But I'm also going to be monitoring my chat line here for some questions that are coming in from Facebook. Again, we wanted more community members to tune in, and we want to give them the opportunity to ask questions. So with that, why don't I open it up for questions from the media?
Mayor, hi, it's Chris Baker.
Chris.
Question about the spending of the federal stimulus money. So, it's money that you've been asking for a long time. The council is already starting to make some plans on how they'd like to see it spent. When can we expect some more details from your office about what you plan to spend this on?
Sure. So again, Chris, I think you've heard from us already about certainly using $20 million to balance the budget. We've talked about our desire to use $4.5 million to support a municipal sidewalk program that we're still hopeful will get approved by the Common Council. But you and the community can expect more details, I would say, by the beginning of June. We're going to spend the next couple of weeks refining our plan, but also engaging with stakeholders. We want to make sure that we're not missing anything. So we're going to be engaging with partners throughout the community in a number of different areas. But our goal is to have our plan largely in place by the end of the month and begin to roll it out in the beginning of June. Other questions?
Mayor, the business cards officers carry do not feature their first name. There's been some discussion with city councilors about adding that first name. There's also been a lot of a cost attached to that. Assuming if you had to order all new business cards with first names, that costs more money. What is your position on that? I know the right to know doesn't specifically say the first name has to be on there. Do you hope that there's one day that officers' full names will be on these business cards?
Well, I've discussed it with Chief Buckner. He feels confident that they've met the letter of the law with the business cards. You saw it just as I did in our slideshow. It's clear between the last name and the number. Constituents shouldn't have any issue identifying who the officer is. That being said, this is new for us. So if we receive feedback from the community that this is a legitimate barrier to information and to ensuring we're protecting our constituents, then that's something that we'll revisit. But at this time, I'm comfortable with the decision, and we'll continue to monitor it.
Thank you.
Hi,
Sure
Mayor.
thing.
It's Amanda Hall from COI Central.
Hi, Amanda.
Just wondering if you have an update after the tenants hearing on Monday to provide anyone. I know you weren't there, but hearing what people have said, is there any update that people can expect coming from Skyline or anything like that?
So we were very pleased with the turnout from the community. The comments really reinforced our ongoing concerns about the conditions in the Skyline, and I think provided our hearing officer and our team with the information that we need to make a decision as it relates to ongoing requirements of the Skyline, specifically as it relates to our nuisance abatement process. So we are now in the process of transcribing all of the testimony that we received. Our hearing officer is already deliberating, but we'll take that transcribed information and review that as well. I don't have a specific time frame for the decision. I expect it will be soon, but I can't give you a specific date yet. Again, I've tried to stay at arm's length and allow the hearing officer to go through the process in a fair way. But again, what I heard and saw was a reinforcement of the concerns that led us to issue the notice in the first place, as well as our unfit declaration and our court actions that we've taken with the owners. And I'm not satisfied with what's been done up to this point. I don't think the owners have shown that they are able to sustain the improvements that they've tried to make. So we're gonna continue to keep the pressure on, hold the owners accountable, and make sure that those tenants have a safe place to live.
Thank you.
Hi, Mayor.
Hello.
Hi, it's Tom Magnarelli.
Oh, hey, Tom.
Hi, so I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
First, what are your thoughts with the municipal sidewalk program and the council they're kicking the bucket for now, or have paused it? They haven't passed anything yet on that.
Well, you know, the vote earlier this week was really a procedural vote. I think that you know, I'm more interested to see what happens following that. But listen, a municipal sidewalk program has been a priority of me and my administration really from the time I took office. It is a stated priority of the Common Council majority. So that gives me hope that we can get to approval. I think the window of opportunity is right now we have federal funds that we believe we can use to kickstart the program and to give us an opportunity to show the community the value of it. We've addressed all of the questions and concerns that have been raised by the Common Council. It's my understanding it'll appear in a committee meeting coming up shortly. If there are more questions, we'll do everything we can to address them. So I remain hopeful. I'll even say cautiously optimistic. But again, I think that the time for action is now.
Yeah, because that was one of the things I read was that there wasn't enough outreach from the administration to counselors. So is that something you're doing more of now? Maybe coming up with a plan of how this is going to be paid over the
Yeah,
years?
Tom, I mean, yes, I believe that we have more than adequately addressed all outstanding questions and concerns from the Common Council and have been very transparent and open with the details of the program. So if there are outstanding questions, we're happy to answer them. But we've worked very hard to share information and have been doing so consistently for more than a year now on the proposed program.
One of the things that some counselors have proposed is maybe putting into law that police officers would be required to have their full name on a business card. That's something that the police chief has pushed strongly back against, almost pleading for them to not do that. Would you veto that if the council passed a law that had the full name, first and last name on a business card?
Well, Tom, like I said, I'm comfortable with the chief's position right now. I think that we all need to be focused on what the desired outcome of the right to know law is, and whether or not the business cards, as they're currently written, help us to achieve the desired outcome. So again, if there is tangible, legitimate evidence that we're coming up short based on what's the information on there, I'm willing to listen, and the council is certainly willing to. I mean, they have the ability to pass whatever they want. So I'm not going to speculate. I'm more interested in in the outcomes, and I think as the deputy mayor said, we have pushed our police department hard. Not just over the past year, over the past 3 years, and especially since Chief Buckner took his position. And while there has certainly been some consternation and some difficult conversations, our police officers have stepped up and they've followed through on everything we've asked of them. So again, if there are legitimate concerns about the efficacy of the business cards and of the right to know law, let's hear them. But this isn't the time for politics. Again, we've got serious issues out in the community. We need our police officers focused on them. So that's where I'm going to try to keep their focus.
And just last thing, just to be clear, so budget passed, you're going to likely sign the amendments. What changed? So at the end of this budget, it came under about $20 million is what you're saying, and you want to use the federal package, the federal aid that's coming in to balance this year's budget. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, the deficit really comes from the revenue losses that we've seen related to the pandemic. We were on a strong path towards fiscal sustainability and a balanced budget prior to the pandemic. The pandemic has set us back. That's what the federal funds are for, is to get us back on track. So that's what we're using them for. And again, once we get on solid ground, it gives us an opportunity to look forward and to see how we can invest those federal funds in a way that is truly transformational for our city.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mayor, sorry. I'm
Sure.
wondering if you were thinking about or possibly planning going back into Skyline and seeing the changes that the management have said that they made, if you have been thinking about doing that or not, or if you're just going to go by what codes continues to go and see.
I'm sure I'll be back in there at some point in the near future. I've been on a number of other property visits, and so I'm sure I'll be back. But as I mentioned recently, our codes officers are in there pretty much daily, and I get daily updates from our officers, as well as oftentimes from the owners. So I feel like I have a good sense of what's going on in there. I also hear from tenants and have some direct lines to people living in the building. But yeah, I suspect at some point soon I'll go back in and have a look for myself.
And do you think that your relationship with the owner has grown or gotten better through this whole process, or would you say it's the same?
I don't really feel like I have a relationship with the owner. We communicate as needed, but I've made it clear that that they are not meeting our expectations and the needs of their tenants, and that's all I feel the need to communicate at this point.
Thank you.
All right, Chris Baker again. If I can circle back to the ARP money, are you planning on using any of it for the STEAM school, or is that a discussion you've had at all?
At this point, Chris, we have not seriously looked at that. Again, we feel like we have the necessary funding in place based on what the state is prepared to provide. So, I have had discussions with the superintendent to make sure that between the district and the city, if at any point there are, we do believe that there is any type of gap or need for resources, that's certainly something that I would consider. But at this point, we have not.
Mentioned early on in the presentation that you'd be looking at or reviewing the public arts investments. 75,000 put aside for the Legends of Basketball mural. Curious your thoughts on that. There's been some criticisms of whether that's a prudent use of stimulus money that was meant to recover from COVID. Do you think it is?
So I think using federal stimulus funds to support the arts and culture institutions and industry in this city are absolutely appropriate for federal funding. Arts and culture are a significant contributor to our local economy, and they have been devastated, like a lot of other industries, through the pandemic. So I think it's very much appropriate. And the only issue that I've taken with that specific project is just the process. There's a lot of local artists here that have been struggling, and local arts organizations, and I think that I've heard from a number of them that have expressed concerns about how this one specific project has been prioritized. I think it's a cool looking mural, and I would like to see it go up. But I don't. My only concern has been that the message that we're sending that this project should be handled any differently than any other proposed arts project. But again, the council felt it necessary to include it in the budget. I don't see a reason at this point to take specific issue with that. But my goal is to make sure that any federal resources we use for the arts are distributed in a fair and equitable way. So that's my plan. Happy to take more questions. I'm looking at we do have a few questions coming in from Facebook. One asking about DPW pickups right now. So we are out doing yard waste pickups throughout the quadrants. We have had some questions about our construction debris, which historically we have picked up beginning in April. This year we are beginning pickup of construction debris in July. So that may be why some folks are seeing some construction debris not getting picked up. But we're just trying to bring a little bit more method to the madness and make sure that we're keeping the city clean, but doing it in a organized fashion. So, but again, starting in July, we'll be out going through the quadrants, picking up construction debris. Also, a question about our youth and some of the challenges that they're facing, both as it relates to the pandemic, but also just in general. And I will say that we do. The question also specifically asks about the use of federal funds to support our young people, and that is absolutely an area that we are looking to make investments in. One area that we're going to be talking more about soon is our summer youth employment program. We were growing that program prior to the pandemic, and we had to take a step back over this past year. We intend to come back stronger than ever on summer youth employment. So absolutely, that is a priority for us, both in general, but also as it relates to the federal ARPA funding. Another question in here about outdoor dining in Armory Square. We do intend to continue that this summer and should have an announcement soon. But we do intend to continue outdoor dining in Armory Square. It was a great success last year. We want to continue that. Anything else from the media? Okay, well, again, I appreciate everyone accommodating our new date and time. Welcome feedback both from the media and from the community if this worked or not. But our goal is to continue to share information in whatever channels we can. So again, I appreciate everyone taking the time. Have a great night.